Yo, what's platinum?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
I'm RowLow.
I'm Tall Josh.
And this is Pool House Vibes,
Hey, the Pool House Vibes.
where we talk about everything.
And anything. Oh, what's up, dude?
What's up, man?
Did
that
that
pissed me the fuck off.
Why?
Dude. I don't know what you were talking about.
Did that just record over our
Yeah.
intro? So we have to delete that?
We're gonna have to delete it anyway, like I was saying.
No, I didn't mean it like that, dude.
Okay.
That's funny. I just meant like don't talk during the intro.
Oh, all right.
Like I meant
we're
like
gonna delete it anyway.
like I meant like do the clap and then do the intro. And that way the beginning is where the clap is, so I don't have to like e.
I'll do it.
No, I have to do it. I'm the one learning this shit.
All right. Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody?
Not much.
welcome to Pool House Vibes.
So should we just do that over again? Should we delete that?
No,
And then just do this over again?
It's so raw and real. I think people will like it. You have to introduce the guest, though.
Are you going to go zzz like that to me again?
No, excuse me. Yeah.
All right, man. So this is Adam Chambers. He's a chemist, a weed chemist, right?
Cannabis chemist, weed chemist.
Tell us what you want to be known as, I guess.
A cannabis chemist, a chemist in general is kind of the way that I'd like it to be known. There is a lot of chemistry that goes into it if you actually understand the process. I don't know, from the start of the plant all the way through to distillation, it's technology that is both really old and some of the stuff that's cutting edge that's being developed specifically for the cannabis industry.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
you do this internationally, or is this the cannabis right now already has exploded to an international conglomerate? But
Personally, I'm lucky enough that I kind of fell backwards into the industry. I had a good friend from high school who was given the position of chief of chemistry at a cannabis company out here. Right as I started to roll into it and came over for the job over from Spain, my father actually started to get into contact with friends of his that he'd made while working in South Africa a long time ago in this little landlocked country called Lesotho, where cannabis just grows almost. You can poke seeds in the ground and it'll just pop up, super potent and ready to be harvested. It's an interesting place down there also just because of the fact that it's one of the few places that didn't get colonized by the Europeans back in the day. So most of the landowning power is still with the people. And so they're making a lot of money right now. And so internationally, I don't know, I can't say that I'm working yet, but I am scoped out in a few years to go down and design a lab that's going to be scaled up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've been in contact recently with I don't think I should probably drop his name, but he's the Ecuadorian ambassador to Lesotho because they're trying to there are some crazy laws that they're adopting down there to try and really make it their cash cow for the entire country. So,
right.
Pretty amazing, actually. Think about that. That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And recently it's just been exploding, like with laws being passed, and
Mm-hmm.
I think internationally it's known as like INN or something, but here it's known as like THC, obviously.
Oh, sure.
But like there's other names for it, and a lot of people don't know that. But it's cool. Like it's cool just knowing just on a chemical composition. Maybe take us through like what a day in the life of a chemist in this industry is.
Sure. So I mean, in the beginning, it really depends on what process you're going to use. There are three main ones that have been that are pretty fleshed out, and that's ethanol extraction, butane extraction, and CO2, supercritical CO2. I personally don't like CO2. I've seen a lot of chemists use it, and it requires a lot of pressure, a lot of setup, and you have some really some anomalies that pop up in the downstream processing. I have now been part of two companies that have each used separate systems, ethanol and butane. So in an ethanol extraction, you're foregoing the smelly stuff and the stuff that kind of makes the oil that comes later taste good for just sheer throughput. So you'd be cooling down your ethanol in order to avoid extracting any of the unwanted materials, color-causing compounds, carotenoids, chlorophyll, all that stuff. And you use that to extract, then you'd have to take it off via a solvent recovery method, and after that you just distill off the cannabinoids off of the crude. Oh, I should mention that you can, and some people choose not to. We personally do. The actual chemistry that goes on, which is odd enough, is the decarboxylation of THC, THCA to THC, which is relieving an acidic group off of the form that it exists on the plant actually isn't psychoactive. So if you just ate, a bud that you'd grown yourself, you wouldn't feel anything. You'd probably just get a gnarly stomachache. You actually have to heat it up. It's just heat that does it. That is actually one of the properties that's universal across all of them to make a psychoactive oil, a THC oil. Now with butane, however,
so it needs the interjection of man in order to reach the psychoactive element of it.
Exactly. That's why it normally, when you smoke it, you burn it, and that is the heat exchange that causes the
really?
The acidic group to break up.
Oh, okay. So when you smoke weed and you burn it, smoking it, that creates what you're saying is the part where we get the psychoactive effects. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. That's why you also have to say, if you wanted to make brownies or something like that, you have to cook it. You have to put it into an oil and heat it up on a skillet or something before it works.
Yeah, you have to, it's in the butter, right? People always say.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's funny.
That is interesting. It's a lot. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that.
No,
they just grab the weed, throw it in the brownie, mix it up.
Well, I've heard stories.
So technically, if somebody's selling weed, they're not really selling weed.
Not in its not
right?
in its end form, I suppose. It's true.
Yeah,
not in the
because you as the user have to actually do the chemistry to get what you want out of it. So technically, what anybody's selling you is just grass off the ground or a bush. They're not really selling you anything.
Right. It's just
you yourself have to.
Yeah, it's just common knowledge.
That's funny
to know how to utilize it.
Yeah,
and the end result is what is illicit.
That's hilarious.
Or globally, but is becoming more and more widely accepted.
Certainly, and I mean, there's also the fact that a lot of people they concentrate on THC when there are a myriad of different useful components in the cannabis plant. I mean, it got demonized way back when just because of its psychoactive properties, but it's really a fascinating plant overall. Aside from the psychoactive ingredient, there's also the host of cannabinoids that like CBG, CBN that have medicinal properties, and then the actual I guess you can call the backbone material of the plant that hemp is best known for, being able to be used for a rope and even now they're thinking of, I don't know. One of the ideas that we'd been working with at our own lab was when you distill cannabinoids off, you get this residue that you've pulled all of the good shit out of, and in that it takes 170 degrees C heat to melt it. So we've been wondering what we might be able to make with that. I don't know, biodegradable straws or the like, a whole host of different materials. They think that it might be cured and hardened, maybe make some kind of like biodegradable plastic. There's a whole bunch of different things that we think could be done down the road with cannabis, but people haven't taken the time to really think about it just because of the fact that it's illegal.
Right.
What part of the plant are you talking about with as far as being able to use that part of the plant to do to make like the straw or whatever? What part of that are you talking about?
So I mean, there are. Every part of the plant would technically have a bit of this, but what I would theorize is the actual part that becomes useful is the radicalized parts of cellulose, which is the structural component of a plant. In the cell wall, you get a lot of like lignin and different things that give a plant its structure, the thing that helps it actually stand up on itself, as opposed to all of the oils and everything that you'd find on the stamen, as it were, like the leafy part of the plant.
Oh, interesting.
So. And you understood that, right?
I mean, kind of, but not really. I mean, not the actual bud itself. Are you talking about?
It would have it, but not as much as say the stem.
Yeah, like the stem
roots.
and yeah.
which also may have, a purpose.
Yeah, no, I mean,
A positive application.
it's hard to say that there's any one particular plant that doesn't have THC or doesn't have lignin or cellulose, but some of it, the buds will just definitely tend to have more of the resins than the stem will, for sure.
Do you think that it's an alien plant?
Man, it could be. For the one thing that I do know that it's been used for thousands of years, in order to for various purposes as well. Just as, I mean, there are a host of plants that have got some very alien properties, so I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, because I just think it's the one plant that has so many different applications. I mean, people are making hemp bricks.
Yeah, I mean,
Really?
Clothes.
Huh.
Yeah, hemp clothes. Yeah, exactly. And just on a medicinal level. So when you're in your lab, you're your main focus and the main output of that lab, would you say, would be extraction?
Certainly. I mean, extraction and then followed by distillation. After extraction, you still tend to have a whole bunch of stuff that you don't really want for the consumer. You'll have a crude oil. Some people, after it's been decarbed or decarboxylated, a lot of people refer to that oil as Rick Simpson oil. That you may have heard it. That was one of the first things that the full spectrum is what you might call it, because it has literally almost everything except for that structural component.
Not Rick Sanchez oil.
Not Rick Sanchez oil. Although I did have an idea to make a capsule called a Simple Rick at one point.
Nice.
That was pretty funny. Oh, sorry. What was your original question?
The original question was you focusing on extraction,
certainly,
primarily.
Yeah, and that after we get our the crude oil or precursor, as some people in the industry call it, you have to distill off the cannabinoids, and that's mainly what the company that I work for right now is interested in. You have the cannabinoids and maybe a slight amount of the terpenes that you'd end up with in the distillate. And the reason that I say distillate is because through the same process that you'd make olive oil or distilling spirits off of like a rye or anything like that, you have to use what's called a rolled film or a wiped film distillation array in order to you evaporate and recondense off of this precursor oil some golden looking distillate that is worth more than its weight in gold.
Wow.
Wow.
Damn. So
No wonder
impressive.
people want to grow weed.
Oh well, yeah,
Sure.
but this is a whole different process. This is post growing. This is growing and then processing and then getting to the point where you're now condensing it, refining it, and then compacting it and making an extract that's a lot more potent than what you would grow.
Oh, it's potent.
Yeah. And so like, see, when I think of a weed chemist, I think of somebody who is, hybridizing, the different strains, or somebody that is, making a whole entire new strain, from scratch. But I never really think of the chemistry applied to the extraction process until I didn't think of that until right now. That obviously takes way more chemistry, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot. Some people wouldn't call it quite chemistry at the beginning because there's not a chemical change that's going on. You're extracting a physical property from the plant, but the extraction portion of it has always been kind of my favorite because it's a little bit more art than science. But particularly with ethanol extraction, which is what I'm better at. You have to figure out how cold you want to get your ethanol so that you're getting a proper capture off of your plant material and not getting it warm enough such that you're pulling off unwanted compounds that'll darken your oil at the end of the process. So the real chemistry that comes into it, to be frank, is during that decarboxylation process. It's kind of like you're cooking it in a way when you're activating it, as it were. You can overcook it, you can undercook it. Then once you put it into your distillation array, you'll be throwing off your vacuum, because all of this has to be done at a vacuum rate that's about half of what you'd get out in outer space.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that's honestly your bread and butter when you're working in my lab. If you're talking to my distillation tech, a lot of the time he's just obsessed with that. How did they decarb it well enough that they'd get all of the terpenes out? Because the terpenes will mess up. They'll create vapor pressure inside of that array and just completely mess up your distillation. You'll notice it in the oil and the potency.
Bubbly, dark. We were just talking about the distillation process, but like we just took a little quick break, but you were talking about your music too. You're a musician, and a lot of this is in support of music, or
Certainly. I mean, again, I've mentioned that it's a very fascinating plant in and of itself. Speaking for the psychoactive properties specifically, creatively, it's a nice a release, I guess, is one thing that you could say. If after the practice is done and you really get to the point in your process where you need to be creative, it'll send you to some pretty interesting places. And also, as a chronic pain sufferer, I got like a leg length discrepancy. One of my legs like an inch longer than the other one.
oh shit.
And so, I mean, the medicinal properties and the pain relief properties are also something that I can speak to. It helped me quite a bit when, I don't know, if you're not into, I could easily get a script for Vicodin.
Right. Right.
But,
And then become hardcorely addicted to that
there you go.
medical field drug, and not something that you can like just go do yourself and grow yourself and not have to worry about all that other bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something, it belongs to the people and in and of itself. So.
Definitely.
You're an advocate for the legalization of this plant globally. You would say, right?
Yeah, used responsibly, as it has the potential to be one of the, I think, most widely used plants in the world. I mean, every part of it is useful almost. The resins that you can extract from it. We already went into the fact that hemp can be used for a myriad of different purposes, and I mean, structurally, I think that hemp bricks. What is it? Hempcrete.
Yeah, hempcrete. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's useful by every definition of the word, and I mean, who knows what other uses there are in the plant, considering I think the number one place of research being conducted right now is actually in Israel. They've been doing hardcore research there since the 80s, and they're turning up all kinds of other anticonvulsive properties and the terpenes and the things that the other cannabinoids do that I've never stopped being fascinated, and I always read something new medicinally that the plant is responsible for. So
That's dope.
Mhm.
That's dope. You're saying also that this is kind of like a second generation experience for you as far as working, under the chemical environment.
Certainly. I mean, it's a big startup right now. Everywhere in California is trying to jump on it. There aren't a lot of labs that survived the first wave of shutdowns. It's not as easy as everybody might think that it is. There are a lot of people that have experience blasting butane in their garages and doing some really dangerous stuff and coming up with some product that isn't exactly lab pure. Aside from that and their process, then there's the facility and the organization. It really is a manufacturing facility in and of itself. But before that even gets to go down, you have to get your process right, and they're picking the right solvent. And a lot of people really like the high-end extracts you can get with butane, but then you start to try and scale it up, and you realize that you have to have 15 machines and 30 operators to compete with what you might be able to accomplish with one machine and 8 operators in ethanol, just because of the way that the process is.
Right, with very similar results on the back end with the output of the
Certainly,
product.
it really depends on what you want. I mean, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the products that you end up with, but some people really like their sauces or the crumble that you get out there in the dispensaries. That's actually the THCA form that I talked about earlier.
Right.
It's not been decarboxylated. It's not psychoactive yet. But that's derived with butane extraction. The reason people like those though is because you end up with a lot of those terpenes, which is what gives it the smell and the taste that you'd get in any specific strains. Whereas with ethanol strips all of those away. But you might ask why people would use ethanol. Then again, it's more easily scalable. It's less dangerous. You're not going to blow yourself up with ethanol. And the scalability comes in there when again you have to have a C1 D1 rated room for butane with vacuum venting, and the butane vapors can make you pass out. It's like a whole bunch of stuff that is not great.
Yeah. So do you see how much work goes into your Instagram dab videos?
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Oh no. There's so much. That oil there is the pride and joy of a lot of faithful chemists out there, or your hobbyists as well.
Right. So do you have any experience with like any kind of scary lab experiences?
Yeah. I think I said off camera that the last place that I was working with was a startup.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the research going into how we were going to do this, we did ourselves, and we made the fumbles that we had to avoid in the past. I'm not going to drop any names, but my old
Mum's the word.
Yeah, exactly. My old coworkers at one point, I think we were, it sounds like a real fancy job, but at some point you really just realize that it's how good you are at getting stuff from this container into this container, and it's really sticky, and it takes a lot of heat to get it from one to the other. We tend to use like these real high tech hair dryers, heat guns, that it gets super hot and blow air to heat up a container to get the oil to fall out just right, and all your tools get sticky. This one time, we had this waste bucket, and we'd been cleaning all day, cleaning stuff and throwing tissues and whatnot into this bucket. And my boss, lead chemist, one of the smartest men I've ever met, and I've known him since we were in middle school, is heat gunning some oil off of a utensil over a bucket, pointing it into the bucket. And the ethanol flash pointed in that bucket while we're inside a container full with around 200 gallons of ethanol.
Oh shit!
And so there were no words. All we heard was just fire. And he's thinking quickly. He slides it over to the door, and my other coworker like football punts this bucket outside, just on fire. Thinking quickly, trying to save all of us. It like rolls out, and the on fire ethanol starts to stream out of this bucket, headed towards the fuel cell for the generator that we have. It's going. Yeah, so trust me, there are a lot of bad things that can happen to an ill-designed lab, but because of that, we got to write up all of our beautiful protocols for how we can get out of the site if we're about to, blow some shit up.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like that Breaking Bad episode where they're out in the middle of the desert in the RV,
right.
Winnebago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then that shit happens too, where like I think it like catches on fire or some shit like that, and they're like out and they're like running in their underwear or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. I can only imagine that thing like I thought you were gonna say he punts it out into like outside, and then it catches like the desert or wherever you're at on fire, and then just bad. Like sets acres. It has like acre fire and shit.
Yeah, y'all remember those fires last May, right?
Yeah.
Well, you were just talking about like you felt a little bit like Jesse Pinkman.
Mm-hmm. No, most certainly. Out in the desert and some shipping containers is where the first lab that we built was. That's the other thing about the California market is if you can build a lab that's successful here, you can do it anywhere. The regulation is intense.
Oh yeah, so this is kind of like almost like a Dragon Ball Z chamber of regulation, right?
Oh yeah,
I feel the same way that in the crypto space, like with the United States being like so like cramped with the SEC at least being so cramped and making people conform to a whole slew of different regulations.
No, you've seen we've seen a lot of labs bite the dust simply because of all of the stringent regulations with. I mean, you could go to a distillery for spirits like vodka and gin and everything, and they're allowed to have ungodly amounts of it on hand, and don't have to have explosion-proof rooms and all of these other precautions that cannabis labs, simply because they are working with something that used to be a Schedule I. They've done absolutely everything in their power to make sure that cannabis is going to have a hard time, and you can see the juxtaposition with the non-psychoactive variant CBD and making CBD isolate. Those manufacturing facilities aren't regulated by the Bureau of Cannabis Control. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So those places they have a much easier time of it. You can have the same solvents and still just not have to abide by a lot of the same regulations. It's really weird.
So, would you go so far as to say as CBD consumption isn't quite as safe?
I mean, it's not supposedly that it's it's not as heavily regulated. So I see what you mean. Yeah, you could go as far to say that, but in truth, if you want to make good oil, the one thing that I think that they would make the CBD isolate dealers do is list their purity. So usually you'll be able to know if it's on the packaging. That's regulation with anything, anywhere, pretty much. So yeah, it's easier to get a CBD oil operation going, but it's not as valuable. Is the thing. Like there's a lot more valuable in the other or a lot more value rather in the other cannabinoids, or having something as a live a full spectrum representation of the plant that it's derived from.
Right. Or so where you have CBD and THC
and a whole bunch of other ones. People, that's another thing actually. People don't realize that there are hundreds of terpenes and about 12 different cannabinoids that are relevant on a plant. And then there are the different strains that you can get that come from all over the world have those cannabinoids in different ratios. So
there's a market emerging for each one too, as the research and awareness becomes more expansive.
Very much so. One of the newer ones actually that is present in very, very low quantities in all of the Western strains that we seem to find is THCV. And that one of the most famous strains out there that has it in high concentration is one called Durban Poison, for instance.
Oh, okay.
It's called that.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, no, it's called that because of Durban in South Africa. And that's where the OG strain comes from. And THCV is known to have a bunch of properties that aren't shared with THC. It's supposed to be much more potent and supposedly psychedelic experience. It's actually very lauded and sought after right now. I know isolate for that goes for a ridiculous amount of money per kilogram, like even more valuable than its weight in gold.
Wow. So you're dealing with some high-end products here. Is your company outputting this?
Mine is not right now, mostly just because in the United States there is a lot of growing going on, but it's about the availability of those strains that make it viable to go after that isolate.
Okay.
Yeah, because the strains that are available to us right now in the United States and Canada, for instance, just don't have it in high enough quantity for us to make it like a
profitable extraction.
Exactly.
That's dude.
So you're saying certain strands of the plant have this THV, is what you're saying?
THCV.
Yeah, certainly.
THCV?
Yeah.
At most I would say do, but to give you an idea, whereas on a plant, say a gram of it, you might get as a percentage point maybe good weed tends to have about 24%. That's like some great stuff that you get at a dispensary.
Right. I've seen that number around.
24% cannabinoids is pretty standard.
Right.
Of that 24%, you might get 1 or 2% THCV. On average, whereas some of those strains coming out of the Hindu Kush and southern
poison.
Southern Africa and Durban poison, and some of the other places that you might get in Lesotho, which is technically landlocked by Southern Africa, as is Swaziland. Those places are bringing out material that's got say 16%. And really high potency strains.
And why is that? Why is it that it's there and not here?
That's a really good question. It's a matter of debate right now, but as someone that's fairly well versed in the industry and the biology of the plant, I'd say it has something to do with the fact that Swaziland, the Hindu Kush, and Lesotho have very high average elevation, if you know what I mean. Like the Lesotho, I think, I'll see if I say this right. I think it's the highest average low point in all of Southern Africa, meaning like it's a very mountainous area, but the climate's good. It's really sunny. The air's really clean.
Pure oxygen.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
That'd be my best guess. But again, it's a very novel research right now that people are doing. But it's a really interesting compound. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that one of the things that is being investigated for right now is retroviral properties. They're looking at engineering it into medicines to combat HIV.
Wow.
And which is really relevant in Southern Africa.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So if you were to grow this in, like, say, a lab like you have, right? And could you put like pure, I wouldn't say pure oxygen, but maybe like a better oxygen in the room
Mm-hmm.
and let it grow and see if you could do that?
See, and that's it'd be curious to see if you could. What you mean by that is kind of like select for the THCV, but what I think you'd find is that it takes a long time.
Really?
It's not something that it's a strain for a grow. It kind of knows what it's going to be at a seedling. Mendelian genetics dictate that you're going to have a specific phenotype from the two plants that you're deriving it from. So that's a plant down there in Durban or in Swaziland or Lesotho, Hindu Kush, wherever,
Okay.
that's spent thousands of years growing naturally and being selected for some reason. A THCV high quantity is like apparently it's helped it survive in that environment. Whereas the ones, it's not as helpful for the strains that have been grown out here in the United States and Mexico and possibly South America. So to that end, I don't really know why. It's possible. I won't put it past people that grow. That's something that I don't do much of, and honestly, I'm fascinated by it. There's some wizards out there that grow some really cool weed. So
Yeah, that'd probably be why a lot of that weed and whatnot, the good weed, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
would say in Northern California would be from Humboldt because it's in elevated
Mm-hmm.
areas and it's in the mountains. So that's starting.
And
That's starting to make sense to me now.
There's not a lot to impede upon its growth,
Yeah,
too.
Mm-hmm.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's something I'm learning a little bit more about it.
If you were to be like transition to like kind of like an investor mind,
Mm-hmm.
now that this boom is kind of on the precipice of occurring, where would you go? What would you do?
To be frank, there are some technologies on the horizon in the cannabis industries that are going to trump a lot of the mom and pop like extraction distillation operations that are going on. There are some very high throughput methodologies that are used by pharmaceutical companies, for instance, to purify drugs and things like that, and they are very, very on the way to being applied to the cannabis space. When that happens, I would say that the shift is going to happen more towards right now. For instance, if, in the current market, and especially about a year and change ago, cannabis distillate of high quality went for, I think it was around $14,000 a kilogram.
Okay.
So it's like a jar
Yeah.
of it is like a small car sitting in your driveway.
Like nice chunk of gold.
Oh yeah, no, and it looks that way. It's really satisfying to handle a jar of that stuff. But because so many places are finally starting to come online and they're getting their licensing and everything, and they're getting these really high throughput machines, there are specific machines right now that are dedicated to the cannabis industry as well. There are, and one particular feat of chemistry that is definitely going to be succeeding in the space is chromatography, particularly high pressure liquid chromatography. It's going to be they use that for purification all over the world for all kinds of different drugs. The only problem for mom and pop stores is getting one that makes it viable enough to getting a chromatograph that's big enough and viable enough to be used commercially and have all of the solvent recovery to make it like you have to basically you have to dissolve it in the cannabinoids and everything that you want in a solution and then be able to take that solution off of it. In order to do that, you have to have some very specialized equipment that's going to cost you a lot of money.
Right.
So as soon as that happens and these big companies start to roll out that technology,
Scalable.
The parent mom and pop stores are going to have a hard time keeping up with that, but they won't be phased out completely. That's why ethanol is really good for commercial grade, but for the people that the consumers in the recreational market are going to turn to people that mom and pop stores are going to be able to soak up all of the super high end butane extracts. That's when you get like the butters and the crumble and the sauces and all of that stuff that's you just can't scale very effectively. But if you've got one machine and one guy who really knows his his credentials and everything, he's going to be
a chromatography expert.
Well, if chromatography would be for the commercial scale.
Oh, okay.
But for the butane extraction, it's more just like knowing your recipe. Well.
Yeah, and that's where the art form kind of comes into play that you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm. And that's just really experience.
Right.
And once you get through to that, that's when you can have your small store because he's going to be able to do it better than anybody else, really.
Right, and it's going to rely on personal preference, like, and it's
Certainly.
also going to be like the man versus the mom and pop shop type of situation. So like again, going back to some investor listeners that we may have, people that are looking to like put money into the cannabis industry, you would say put it into like the pharmaceutical side of it, or
Depends on how much money you have.
okay,
If you got bank and you want cannabis is going to blow up.
Right.
Again, it's just the tip of the iceberg is all of these things that we're starting to see that cannabinoids can be a cure or at least a treatment for anticonvulsive medication, the remediation of cancer, and a myriad of them. There are going to be more. It's only a matter of time. So on the pharmaceutical side, yeah, it's going to be a huge cash cow. Of that, there's no doubt. But at the same time, if you have a smaller amount of money and you're personally interested in getting involved in the industry, making your high-end extracts, they're always going to go for plenty of money. It's just about, if you're not going to be the Walmart of weed,
Right.
Running butane. I'm actually dealing with that right now, and a company that I'm associated with is going to be having an interesting time when they realize that other companies are going to start picking up ethanol and chromatography.
right.
So it's a thing.
So the ethanol extraction process, doesn't ethanol burn totally? Isn't it invisible when it burns, or is that a different chemical that I'm thinking of?
It is invisible. Well,
I'm sure that lab experience was like super sketch because you had to recognize the flash point.
No, exactly. We were just lucky that there were a bunch of like Kim wipes and paper towels in the bucket as well. So it lit on fire.
That could show you the flame.
Oh yeah, it did a
'cause
thing.
You can't see ethanol when you're burning. That's why like sometimes when like race car
Is it like
drivers,
odorless.
it's colorless and odorless when
Okay.
it's burning. So like
Yeah,
race
yeah.
car drivers, I think that's like the fuel sometimes. And dude, they're just like if their car's on fire, they're like
I
freaking
got
out,
you.
rolling, and you're like, what? You can't see anything, but they're burning up. You know,
Yeah.
dude, that is
pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah, no,
Super
it's
crazy.
the reason that one of the only saving graces of the process is that usually you're working with cold ethanol. There are some people
Right,
that
okay.
run warm ethanol extraction and then do what's called a carbon scrub afterwards. But if you're working with cold ethanol, you could take a match to it and it won't light on fire. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, that when you were talking about holding like a jar, like of it and realizing that, dang, this is like worth pretty much more than its weight in gold.
Certainly.
Like you can take gold and like if you hand somebody, hey, you want this gold or you want this? Like a smart person would take, the extract. That shows that we're on a whole,
You think a smart person would take the extra?
a truly smart person would if they know like how much it's actually worth, because then they can get maybe like 3 or 4 bars of gold.
Exactly.
So-
I guess what you
So
you just trade that shit for gold.
yeah, you can take yeah, exactly.
Be like, you want this? I'll take 3 or 4 or 5 bars of gold. Imagine.
Some people like have you ever seen those it's like a trick. I think I've seen it either I think maybe China, where it's a glass case and there's like a singular circle and there's a bar of gold in the middle, and your goal is to extract this heavy, super heavy. I think it's like 20 kilograms or something. I don't know. It's pretty heavy, and you're trying to just pull it out of that super small circle. The whole goal is you can only fit your hand inside the circle. You can grab the bar of gold, but it's super heavy, so you got to like use all of your muscles to lift it up. If you can get it up to the corner, there's a trick where you can put your hand like this and like use the weight of itself, almost like a fulcrum system in a way, to lift the gold bar out and pull it out. And I've seen very few people do it. And I've seen some videos online where
You have to be pretty motivated.
you have to be really motivated, and you like ruin your fingers, but you get that bar of gold, man. You got like $1 million.
There you go.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Hey, so I got a not necessarily a quick question, but a question. What is the difference between CBD and THC?
Okay.
Because I've smelt both, and they both smell the same, but you don't get the what you call it,
The
psycho.
psychoactive is, it's not present in CBD. I can answer that, but I think you'd be more suited to answer that.
I mean, sure. Chemically, they have a similar backbone. There are a few functional groups are a bit different. Now, as far as their properties go, there is the psychoactive property that the CBD doesn't have that the THC does. The CBD also carries a lot of properties that are that will remediate cancer. They will also responsible for anti-inflammatory properties. THC also will have several of those, and actually is responsible to some of the, I don't know, some people perceive them as negative consequences of the use of it. I think it's supposed to have some role that it plays with the altering of the reward center in your brain. So, a lot of people are called stoners lazy and all this stuff, which, it's not too far off.
Right.
One of the reasons that might be is constant THC use will kind of change the way that your brain rewards itself, its dopamine system. Not necessarily something that impacts your day-to-day life. Well, no, it
could
will.
long term.
Yeah, exactly. But long term, it's definitely got some effects. Now, if you do your research a lot, you'll see that many of the claims that people have of people exhibiting short-term memory loss or long-term memory loss. The short-term memory loss, sure, while you're baked, you're gonna have a harder time remembering stuff. But through most of the studies that they've shown is even through heavy use, like you're not gonna be losing too much of your long-term memory. People aren't losing memory, high school memories because they smoke a lot of weed. But the neurochemistry that is being altered is specifically that reward center. The lethargic behavior, all of that stuff, that really is the cornerstone of that argument and where it should be founded. So the difference between CBD and THC would be CBD is not going to have a psychoactive effect. But to my knowledge, there aren't many negative effects for CBD. It's just kind of like a supplement that one might take.
And so the actual plant, the weed plant, the white hairs is the THC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why does that not grow on CBD? Is there like a chemical thing that happens within the plants where you just have a plant that? So how does that work? How does it not grow on CBD?
Okay, no. CBD a lot of the time is found mostly on hemp, which is like the male version of the plant.
Oh, so CBD is a male version of the plant then?
It's mostly found.
Mostly found,
okay.
And it's not specific to the male. The feminized plants will definitely have CBD on them, but just in much lower concentration. And you tend not to see them so much. Well, actually, recently there's been a resurgence of plants that have been selected genetically for a high CBD strain, like feminized flower that's got a lot of CBD in it. And that's that.
It has no THC on it?
It has THC,
so it has both.
But again, some people would prefer more CBD in their plants, so it'll have lower quantities of THC but more CBD on it. Huh. Again, there's a plant for every man. Really, like these days, California in particular is really good at
or woman
at making Mendel proud. It really is the same as him and his pea plants all those hundreds of years ago. If you know your Punnett squares, you have a decent shot at being a good geneticist for the cannabis industry. So.
That's pretty interesting.
So there's a super big difference of being a chemist in the industry and being a geneticist. You'd say chemists are kind of being utilized more for like what you're doing, right? And then the geneticists are being used to create the different strains.
I would love to see, maybe they have that on YouTube. I mean, they pretty much have everything on YouTube. How the two plants like kind of interact with one another to create what they like the buds, I guess. I'd love to see that, because I've always been interested.
Like the sperm meets the egg, those like 3D visualizations.
Well, not necessarily a 3D, but like kind of
that's how I would learn it.
Kind of like doing one of those like a time lapse video and kind of see like
under like a microscope.
Maybe like through like like an ant farm, but putting the I don't even know how they interact. And when I was younger, I didn't even realize that a male plant interacted with a female plant to create this weed or hemp or whatever you want to call it, the drug, I guess.
Germinating.
Yeah, that they interact with one another to create this like chemical compound on a plant and then you smoke it and then you get all high. Like I had no idea until somebody was telling me, oh yeah, I think it was probably my uncle or something that told me about it. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I want to see that. Like, so I'm saying, like, you know how they have the ant farms or whatever, so you can see through.
Right.
And see, yeah, maybe like putting them in something like that, like in a glass container.
It'd be difficult to pull off, but I think it's possible.
That'd be dope
I even really liked what you're talking about, because to people in the industry, or even people in general, tend to either demonize weed or glorify weed, but they don't always talk about like what you were just talking about, some of the adverse effects that could potentially happen, or that studies have shown have happened. There's been a multitude of creditable sources that have delineated these studies, to the point where it's good to acknowledge that this, like, engaging in this, even in small amounts, can have these effects. So naturally, those effects could be enhanced through ingesting these high potency extracts.
Certainly.
I remember, like, one of my first experiences, like, long ago. I mean, I don't really anymore, but long ago there was my first experience with it ever. It was with Keef. Like, ironically, the first time I ever smoked anything, it was like my buddy got all excited. He's like, "You gonna smoke, dude?" I was like 23 or something like that at the time, and he was like, "Dude, you really gonna smoke?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm down now. I'm down. Whatever, fuck it." And he was like, "No. I gotta." With me? I was like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "Of all people, dude, with me." I was like, "Yeah, dude, come on, let's do this." He's like, "Fuck." He reaches it back in his back cabinet.
All the way in the back.
Yeah, he reaches all the way in the back.
Shit.
He like unzips a grinder, and it just had just like this white powder. And I was like, "Whoa, dude, no, dude."
You're like,
I just want weed, bro. And he's like, "No, this is weed." And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking?" I trusted him. He was like, "Dude, no. All right, so you crush up weed, and then it releases the crystals from the weed. That's what you get high off of." And they put it all in like this in the bowl, and we smoked it. And I was just like, gone, dude. I ended up telling this girl that I was talking to, like, we ended up going to Fridays, and she was like, "Hey, what's up? You want to hang out?" I was like, "Who are you?" like I was out of it. Yeah. And so, but just so people know, like, in mass amounts, or not even in mass amounts, but in high potency amounts, there are some dangerous effects that could take place.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've got my stories. Most of my roommates that I had helped bring that startup into fruition with are what I would definitely refer to as weed superheroes. Like, I'm serious. I live
like the Snoop Dogs of our world.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think even Snoop Dogg would take a few steps back if he were to meet some of the people that I hang out with on a regular basis.
You hear that, Snoop?
Yeah, no, it's there.
He'll come to this eventually.
Yeah, like, and I don't know. I've seen people that consume in mass amounts, and still, it's interesting. Once you normalize and you understand what it is to be in that state of mind, I can personally attest to the fact that it doesn't really degrade your capacity for logical thought, or even creative thought, any of it. But long term, however, I'll be interested to see what happens with these extracts becoming the new norm.
Right.
Full spectrum, again, is what you get on the plant, which is just all of the terpenes and different cannabinoids. But when you're specifically isolating THC and consuming it in large quantities, then who knows what really could happen in the long term. Then you can talk about all the different delivery methods that you're getting these days, the vape cartridges, and straight up taking dabs, or what is the dab tabs, I think is that one of the newer ones that have been popping up on the market. Sublingual strips, a whole bunch of different things.
Whoa.
Yeah, there are many ways to take it now, but some of them aren't great. Like, I personally will never touch cartridges. They're not my thing. After some of the, again, being
spoken from a chemist.
Yeah, exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen.
No. Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. Is I don't trust them quite yet, mostly because most companies will say that they're putting straight up distillate or something into their products, when in reality their cartridge technology, they're either outsourcing the cartridges to China, or they're something. The cartridges that they ordered aren't quite working with the thickness of the distillate that they have. Their oil's too good all of a sudden, so they have to cut it with some coconut oil, MTT oil, something like that.
Shit.
Yeah, and you're not entirely. Well, actually, one thing that I will say is that in California, they tend to do a pretty good job at regulating, but only just now. There are definitely some carts on dispensaries that were packaged half a year ago, 7 months ago. These new regulations are popping up every month. They're finding new and better ways to like make sure that people are getting like real products, and a bunch of false advertising has gone on. So yeah, it's good to be weary about what you're consuming. You know, branding has definitely affected people's decisions. I would say do at least a little bit of research if you want to consume responsibly.
Right. Yeah, that's super, super clutch information. And the thing that I really liked is the reward center, because I just can remember, and I can only speak from my own personal experience, but I remember the super excited feeling that I got when I accomplished like a life goal. Like I just remember that, right? And it was very close to when I got like really, really high. Like, and then I realized, oh shit. So this feeling that I get when I accomplish something amazing, I could just give myself that feeling. It's like a self-rewarding system in a way. Some people medicate, self-medicate, you're dealing with depression. Some people deal with anxiety. Some deal with physical pain, and all that, it has its benefits. But as far as the reward center goes, not doing it, you start to get some of that back. Like, like the dopamine rush from achieving something or releasing some amazing content that you've really been holding on to, that you've worked an incredible amount on, or whatever it is, like just contributing to like the global zeitgeist of altruism, so to speak. I don't know how else to put it, but having that reward center is crucial for the development of society. And if we limit that, that can have like an adverse effect. And I think that it's important to realize, moderation, if, consuming, like you were saying, consuming responsibly is super key. I think that needs to be kind of like an undertone of kind of any of these types of talks too.
No, certainly. I mean, too much of a good thing is certainly something that needs to be discussed in the world of cannabis. I mean, again, it's a wonderful thing. There are a lot of, I'm sure there are a lot of artists out there that would attribute a lot of their inspiration to cannabinoids, but at the same time, everything starts to kind of feel the same if you overconsume. A lot of the things that once maybe brought you joy start to just kind of feel mundane, and you'll feel that if you quit as well.
Right.
A lot of people say that it's not a very addictive substance, but one thing that you'll hear people say that it is addictive psychologically, and the reason is like if you get really used to going to, I don't know, see a movie and stuff like that, and you're baked, you go again when you're sober, and all of a sudden you can't stand sitting in that theater for 2 hours, then you start to realize, wow, okay. It's like I don't have a physical need, but I definitely want to get stoned before I go and watch this movie again.
Right.
And it should be used more, in my opinion, as a way to either reward yourself or to accentuate some kind of activity that you gain something out of. Right. In my opinion, again, as a musician, as we mentioned before, I used to love, and still do occasionally, I used to creating and recording. I'd lose myself much easier and find it I'm much more efficient at getting into a state of nothingness or flow, whatever you want to call it. Right. Under the influence, but I personally don't enjoy other vices, alcohol, nicotine. They're very different, which is the other thing that I think people don't realize about THC is it's not a party drug or something weird like that. It's definitely meant a very pensive, contemplative, pensive, contemplated internal experience. And so using it too much, I think anybody will notice it's kind of a masturbatory experience.
Right, yeah, if you think about it. That's kind of funny. Yeah, that's right. Weed's a masturbatory experience. That's a great quote.
Stuff like I mean, you'll think about some of the stuff, that great idea that you had while you were with your friend and you're high. Yeah, man, we need to make like our snowball business is going to take off. It's going to happen.
So it's like almost like the ballooning thing, right? Where your idea goes so far, and your idea is just the most amazing idea, and then you might have even wrote it down. You go back and look at it, and you Google it, and all of a sudden you realize that there's 9 companies that already started that idea or whatever it was. Yeah, man, I've had that experience before.
It's a thing. And again, I'm sure that some people have had the idea, and it actually has been the eureka moment that they needed. But 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
it's not bad.
And then going back to what you were talking about with getting high and then going and seeing a movie, and that actually happened to me when I saw Napoleon Dynamite.
Ah.
I got high, had never seen it, watched it at a house, and then maybe a year or two later, I watched it again. I was like, oh, that movie was hilarious. Like I remember it being funny as all hell, and then I watched it and I was like, this movie isn't that funny. So it's just like you were saying, like that.
I found that
should
movie to be hilarious.
Well, yeah, I mean, after a while, but it was. I remember it and
Way
recall
funnier
it
than it was.
way funnier than what it was. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you were in tune, I think, when you were probably stoned.
I still don't want to get roundhouse kicked to the face while wearing those bad boys, though.
There you go.
Man, yeah, that's my father calls it feeling like you're king of the invisible mountain. You're the king of the invisible mountain, and it's like that's a good analogy, I think, for the experience sometimes that some people have when they're doing it. Now, just real quick before we kind of wrap up, your music. Do you have it out anywhere? Are you kind of like more of a personal, private musician, or?
I have a very strange experience with music. Honestly, I got into music school way back when I was applying to college. My parents didn't really want me to go. At the same time I promised them that I would apply to school to be a scientist. And you can guess who won, but
Right.
After I still kept up with the music because it's a huge passion of mine. And then after school, in that kind of oblivion that you don't really know where you're going, even though because I changed courses a couple of times. I was going to be a doctor first, and then I realized that was not going to be a good idea for me. So I got into med school and everything, but I'd switched my major from general biology to forensic biology because I was going to go and be a forensic analyst. I haven't had a gig where I was an expert witness and I did a few cases and presented them at court, and I was like, no.
Yeah, it's a little there's dark energy around that for sure.
Still not going to happen. So, and I instead decided to graduate from Virginia Commonwealth University and go to back over to live with my dad for a while, and he lives on the Mediterranean coast of Spain.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And-
well, my father lives in Spain too. That's
Yeah,
cool. That's cool.
That's why I was like, wow, that's a small world. And so while I was there, he told me I didn't have to worry so much about like rent. I was living with them and everything, but I wanted to have spending money, and so I started like sharing my music with people. I wasn't so much into recording it as I was performing it, but what started with street performing and small gigs and sound teching and stuff like that ended up sending me off with a couple of my friends. I saw most of Europe just street performing. We left with like $150 and just stayed in hostels and saved money for train. Just put one foot in front of the other and spent almost the better part of a year and a half doing that.
Dope.
And that towards the end of that was when I randomly got this call from my friend Ross to say, come out and join us out here in California and use your degree for. It's kind of ironic that I'm a forensic biologist and now I'm working in the cannabis industry. I could have worked for the DEA or the CIA or the FBI or any of these guys, and now I'm out here not doing that.
Yeah, no, but I think it's a little bit more freeing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, certainly.
For sure.
I mean, it's a booming industry, and one thing that I love about the cannabis industry that I will also say is that it tends to be quite colorblind. There are people from all walks of life that have found their way into the industry. But even at the lab that I work with now, there are people from across the world. The people that speak like 5 languages. That from all the way from executives who have been to like massive universities down to ex-gangbangers who are just trying to get that stable job out there. It's an interesting industry in that respect.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I think it really unites people too. Just like what ended up happening. How many people have you been like, oh yeah, man, let's smoke blunt, or you know, like whatever, like, and you're all of a sudden out at a concert or a party or whatever it is, and you're doing that same thing with people you've never expected to do that with. But
no, certainly. I mean, I got one claim to fame, and it did happen because of weed. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we actually had gone. My friend and I had gone to see a show, and then we are staying at the Motel 8. I'm not proud of that, but we were
Super 8 Motel.
Yeah, that's the one. And we were at the vending machines, and we turned around, and it was Afro Man.
Oh, nice.
And we smoked weed with Afro Man because he didn't have any, and we did.
Oh, that's dope.
And I was going to say, like, that probably wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been.
Then I got
weed.
high.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
And that's not a story that I think is too unfamiliar to people. I think that's happened a lot.
Yeah,
with
no,
Afro Man.
yeah, I believe so. Dang.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Shouts out Afro Man, man.
Mhm.
Hey, well, that's it. I think that's a great way to end, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Episode
Oh, yeah, man.
number 12.
Number 12. I had to. I'm sorry. I had to.
Do so.
I hope that was good.